On the nod! 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 On the nod!
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Brackett. You're watching On the Nod. Today I'm here with Eddie from the Vibrators. How are you, Eddie?
I'm very well, thank you. Yes, pretty fit and healthy.
Well,
Went
that's
out for a
good.
swim today, so I've been down the beach for a bit, so all good.
Well, that's very good. It's important.
Yeah. When you get older, you got to look after your health, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I've noticed that about getting older.
Yeah, well, you're only young. Get out of here. There's one way to catch me up.
Well, I usually start these things by asking about how the band got together. How did the Vibrators form as a band?
Well, it was a long time ago, February 76. We were talking about it the other day because we had a meeting with the original guys, and Pat and John were talking about forming a band. And then I spoke to John about forming a band, and he said, well, I was trying to learn bass, and he said, oh, Pat's a really good bass player. Why don't you play drums? And I said, well, Knox is doing nothing at the moment. Well, I'll phone him up, and then you'll speak to Pat, and then we'll meet up. And then I saw Pat, I think, at a gig and said, are you up for this? And he, yeah, let's do this. And so we went round to Knox's on a Sunday morning, I think it was. And I had a back line from another band that I was roadieing for. I had all their gear in the back of the van. So we set up in my parents' garage and then ran through. After a couple of hours, the police got called and we had to break that up. So we then started rehearsing in John or Pat's garages, and we didn't have any trouble there because Pat's father was in the police. He was a police commissioner, so they didn't complain. And that's how, yeah, we were all friends and all knew each other. And Pat, Knox, and John had all been in bands, and I'd been roadieing or helping out with them. And when you set the drums up, you have a little bash on them, and that's why they said, "Oh, you can play the drums." So I had to learn pretty quick because they were really good musicians and I was a total beginner.
Oh, really? So you didn't know how to play the drums before you?
Well, I played drums just like I say, with other bands when you were setting up. And also, I'd learned when I was in the Boy Scouts and Army Cadet, playing marching bands. So I kind of knew some of the sticking, but I didn't know how to play a drum kit. And we got a gig, I think, a fortnight after our first rehearsal. And of course, I didn't have a drum kit, and I had to buy a drum kit the day before the first gig. So that was kind of how green I was, anyway. But we got through it. That was supporting the Stranglers, actually, and they were very good guys. Yeah, they looked after us, and they were doing what do you call it? A residency at a pub in West London called the Nashville, which is a really cool place to play. And they said, "Oh, do you want to do the support?" So we jumped at the chance. So that's how we got to know the Stranglers and do stuff with them. So it all kind of took off from that, but it was just, I think everyone was a little bit bored with the music that was being played in the pubs and clubs around that time. It was all trying to copy, the band, and it was all kind of laid back and, we wanted to get something that was a bit more up tempo, in your face, a bit more rock and roll, a bit more like the Rolling Stones from '63 or the Kinks or, Buddy Holly and all that kind of exciting stuff. Unfortunately, that's pretty much gone out of youth music these days. All the young kids today want to listen to rap and things, but things change.
Right. I'm sure there's a lot of differences from when you started to the music scene now. Definitely.
Well, very much so. I mean, when we started, if you wanted to go out for a night, you went to a pub that had a band on, or you went to see a band playing live, and, discos and things almost didn't exist, and the thought of going there would be crazy unless there was a band to go and see. So, all the clubs in London and all the pubs in London, like I say, had bands playing rather than just music. Things like karaoke, thank God, hadn't been invented at that time. So we didn't have to suffer that.
Right.
So when you really like karaoke, don't you?
Oh, I'm not actually a fan of karaoke. I don't think I've ever done it.
Oh, good. I've never done it. I know I can't sing, so I'll leave that to other people.
Yeah, exactly. So what were some of your earliest influences?
I think for us, it was a lot of the stuff, you're obviously influenced by the things that went before. And everybody in the band had different influences. I mean, John was very much into the blues thing, and he liked Fleetwood Mac and the early Fleetwood Mac and bands like that, when they were doing Man of the World and Oh Well and those kind of stuff with Peter Green. Knox was very much into the Velvet Underground and Iggy Pop and the Stooges and that kind of thing. Pat was very much into bands like the glam things like T-Rex and Mud and bands like that, The Sweet. And I just liked all this kind of rock and roll band, the Faces and the Who, the Kinks, the Rolling Stones, all those kind of bands were my favourites. The Yardbirds from the 60s. That was the kind of stuff we grew up with, you know, and
Right.
harking back to the 50s, you know, with Chuck Berry, Little Richard, Buddy Holly, all those kind of people. Fantastic, you know.
Yeah, definitely one of a kind, really.
Yeah. So that was just a matter for us of kind of carrying on that tradition, but doing it our own way, not trying to copy them in any way, but using that as an influence and then trying to do something original and different that was our own kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. You can hear that in the music for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So one of your first tours was with Iggy Pop, right?
Yeah, I think we've been going for about a year or two after that, and we got offered that because they were rehearsing in Berlin, and we'd been out in Berlin rehearsing, and they'd heard us being played on the radio out there, and they thought, "Oh, that's good." And so we managed to blag that support on that Iggy Pop tour, which was great. And we also had the guy who helped produce our first album, Robin Mayhew, used to do the sound for David Bowie during his Ziggy Stardust days. You know, his company
Oh,
was called Ground Control. Unfortunately, he's passed away now, but and we had him doing the sound. And of course, as soon as he turned up, he said, "Oh, hello, David." And David Bowie's going, "Oh, what are you doing here?" So we were immediately on the right side of him, everybody. So it was good fun. And it was just a learning curve for us, you know, because we hadn't played those kind of big venues, obviously. And now we were, you know, although supporting, we were playing the big venues to a lot of people. And it went really, really well. Got on very well with them. They were very kind to us. They didn't, you know, make us feel like, oh, just a support group, you know, you lot can get 5 minutes and all that. But, you know, we got proper sound checks and looked after very well.
cool. Now what was you were talking about going on tour with Iggy Pop. What was a band that was really memorable that you played with?
Other bands at that time. Oh, well,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Well, we did stuff with the Stranglers. I mean, you know, got to give them a good mention. And we played with the Sex Pistols in London with the
Oh
Clash.
wow.
All the bands that were around at that time, the Jam, the Clash, the Stranglers, the Sex Pistols. We played with all of those bands at various times. So we got to know everybody, and you'd see them down at clubs and have a drink with them. And how you getting on? How's your new album and all that? So it was
Yeah.
good, yeah. I mean, I used to go out about 5 or 6 nights a week, just going around London seeing bands. So if there was a new band that came over, like the Saints, when they came over from Australia, you went
Mhm.
straight down to see them and see if they were any good, and they were. They were very good.
Yeah, definitely. What was your first big single?
The first single we did with the Rack Records, and that was "We Vibrate," which was a song that Knox wrote, and that came about because we played at the 100 Club on a punk rock festival in 1976, the 100 Club, and Chris Spedding was advertised on the bill, so they would try and get people down to see Chris Spedding, and the only trouble was they never asked him, but he saw the advert, so he thought he'd turn up and be a surprise for them. So he turned up and said, "Hi, I'm Chris Spedding. I understand I'm being playing here tonight." And they said, "The only trouble is I haven't got a band." So he sort of asked us if we'd support him, and we said, "Yeah, okay." So we sat in the dressing room for an hour before the thing started and learned 3 or 4 of his songs, and then he came on. We went. I think they had Stinky Toys on first. They were from France, and then they had the Damned on, and then they had us on, and then we did about 5 or 6 songs at the end with Chris Spedding, and he liked us, and he recommended us to his record company, which was Rack Records with Mickey Most, and so Mickey Most came down to see us just one of our own gigs, and then they said come in the studio and do a single. So we did one single with Chris Spedding, which was Pogo Dancing, and then we did our own one, which was We Vibrate, which was a song that Pat had written.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, and then we did a follow up to that, but then every record company in London was after us, so we had a much better deal with CBS, which later became Sony, and so we signed with them instead.
Right. You
Yeah,
were also worked with Chris Spedding not that long ago, right?
yeah. Well, yeah, his record company were putting out a CD with all his old TV and radio things on it. And we did was it a John Peel session with him, which came out
Okay.
really well. And they phoned us up and said, "We really like your one the best. You know, you and Chris Spedding work really well. Why don't you do an album with him?" So we had a word and said, "Yeah, that'd be fun. We haven't seen him for ages. You know, he's a really nice guy, fantastic guitar player, brilliant guitar player. So, you know, to work with someone like that is really a thrill." So we
Right.
said, "Yeah, we'll do that." And then the record company pulled out and said, "Oh, we can't afford to make the album and all the rest of it." So we sold it to Cleopatra and they put it out in America. And so
Oh,
we ended up working with him again. You know, we did a couple of I think what it was kind of weird. We did like 3 or 4 songs and we played them to the record company and they said, "Oh, we haven't got the money," and all the rest of it. And we thought, well, we've done all this stuff on it. Why don't we finish it off? So we did
mhm.
about another 6 or 7 songs. I can't think what it was. And then we phoned up Pat and said, we phoned up Chris and said, "We've done these. Do you want to come in and add some guitar and vocals and stuff?" So he did. And that's how it all turned out. And then Cleopatra put it out in America. That's great. It's a really good album.
Yeah, definitely. And you've been like one of the original members of the Vibrators and stayed with the band throughout its history. I know you've had a lot of lineup changes, right?
Yeah. It's. I mean, people get tired and worn out from the touring and all the rest of it, and they have other things. And you know, we never became millionaires, so it was always a matter of just keeping going and making the money up. And so, yeah, I just kept going. But we get older. You know, Knox had to drop out when he was in his mid 60s because it was all getting too difficult for him. So we thought, shall we carry on? Shall we stop? So we thought we'll try it without him for a few years, and we ended up going on for another 12 years without him. You know, even though he was still kind of in the background, and so when we went in to do an album, we'd get Knox in to do the singing and the guitar playing and writing the songs and stuff. So he was a bit like the sort of Brian Wilson with the Beach Boys, kind of sitting in the background getting songs
Right,
sorted out, and so that when we could finish touring, we could go in the studio and record something. But
right.
he's very talented, Knox. I think he's one of the most underrated writers and guitar players to come out of that period. I think his stuff is extremely good. And
So he did all the writing for the band?
he
All the
didn't do
songs?
all the writing. No, other people. I mean, when we started off, John and Pat were writing as well, and Knox would always write. If you went into the studio and said, "How many songs have we got to do for the album?" Knox would have about 15 or 20 songs, and the others would have like 2 or 3. So Knox is very prolific, and he had a big back catalogue of old songs. I mean, even we would be doing songs, and he would say, "Oh, I had this song about 15 years ago, and I've never really recorded it." And he'd dig it out, and he'd say, "What are you talking about? It's great, Knox. Let's do it." And so some of the things that were recorded on new albums weren't new songs; they were very old songs that hadn't been done for a long time. But he
Right.
does write a lot of stuff. I think he's still writing and doing stuff now.
Are you guys, you guys stopped playing, right, in 2022? That was your final tour, or are you guys still
Yeah,
making?
yeah. Well, it kind of stopped with COVID. We were touring Europe at the time of COVID, and then we had to pull out of going to Milan because it got too dangerous down there. And then we did our last show in Switzerland, and then we were supposed to do a couple of shows in Germany, and they pulled those because of COVID. So we just had to come home. And then, we're doing nothing for like best part of 2 years. Nigel who was playing guitar at the time. He went off to Australia and then ended up getting married and going to live in near Philadelphia in America. And then Pete rather, he's from Finland, and so his mother was getting old, and so he wanted to go back to Finland. So he went back to Finland, and so we just thought, we've given it 40 odd years, 47 years, so we
Yeah.
haven't done bad. So we thought
Yeah.
it's time to sort of lay down arms. We had a couple of shows planned to finish up with Pat and John and Knox, but unfortunately Knox was ill and we had to pull him out. So we just thought, oh, we'll leave it at that.
Right. That makes sense. Are
Yeah.
you still playing music with other bands?
Yeah, I'm still very busy. I'm playing with this band. Look, you can see the t-shirt.
Oh, okay. Is that the band with your son?
Yeah, no, he plays guitar and bass, but he lives quite a long way away. If he lived around here, he'd probably be in it. But he has played a couple of times with the Vibrators. We got him on stage when we played the big festival up in Blackpool, and
Oh,
at the
cool.
festival when he was living down in Cornwall. So but he's good. No, it's just mates of mine from around here, and where I live in a little town called Brightlingsea. But since I'm not doing the vibrators, all these little bands have been phoning me up and saying, "Oh, can you play drums for us for a bit?" So I'll say yes
Yeah.
to everything. So I've been playing with a really good singer called Vic, and a band called Vic and the VIBRATORS. She's a girl, and it's really kind of blues, jazzy stuff. So it's very different style to the vibrators.
Right.
And there's a band called the Broken Johnnies, which is a lot more punky sort of stuff. And then there's Eam, and there's another band called the Groovy Arts Club Band. So those are what I'm doing at the moment, mainly. So I'm
Oh,
keeping
wow.
keeping busy, but not quite as busy as we were with the vibrators. I don't think I could keep that standard up at my age. It's getting too old.
Right. Well, that's understandable.
Yeah, well, we all get older as it goes by. So we'll see. But I mean, the last thing we did with the vibrators, we did a couple of tracks for Cleopatra. They did a Punk Floyd album, and we did a version of Arnold Lane for that. And they also did a Rolling Stones punk thing, which we did Satisfaction on.
Oh, cool.
But at the moment, Pat's ill, so we can't really do anything. So we're just holding fire on anything. So we'll wait and see. But that Satisfaction Stones will probably be the last thing we do. I think we'll have to wait and see.
Right. Okay. So no more touring or anything like
No,
that?
I don't. No, I think touring is too complicated, and we're all a bit too old. And it's just, but I'm just playing locally with bands, and around England and that. So I'm keeping busy, but we're not millionaires, so we can't sort of swan around America for 6 weeks, rolling
Right.
or whatever. They can stay in 5-star hotels and stuff, and we couldn't. So that's okay. We always had fun on our American tours. It was always good. What do you got the goat behind you for? God, you're a devil worshipper there or something.
Oh, what, behind me?
Yeah,
Oh. Yeah, this is my husband's office. That's his
yeah.
deal. I'm not a devil worshiper, I swear.
He's a bit of a goth, is he? I get you.
A little bit.
Okay.
But so you worked on a lot of albums. I was looking at all the albums you guys created. Is there one that really stands out to you?
Yeah, there's a few. I like most of the stuff we've done. You don't kind of make albums and think, oh, that's rubbish, but we'll put it out. If we don't like it, we don't put it out. So I mean, pretty much everything we've done, I really like. People are always going about Pure Mania being a great album, and it's just been re-released on a vinyl in Holland, and they sent me a copy, and I had to listen to it. And I haven't listened to it for ages. I think it is really great. And I think we improved on it with V2, which we did with Vic Mail producing. And I thought that came out fantastically well. I thought it really was one of the best albums from '77. But, or '78 rather. And then, but, all the albums we've done right up to the end, I think are very, very good. And we've done about 3 or 4 live albums, and I always like those for some reason. I like live things, but, they don't sell them. Most people don't go out and buy them. But
Oh, that's a shame.
yeah, you listen to Jimi Hendrix, some of the best stuff he did is the live things, but
Right. That's true.
yeah, that Hendrix in the West and all that kind of stuff, but live at Berkeley is fantastic. But yeah, I've got a whole bunch of them down here. You can't see them, but there's hundreds of Vibrators albums. I'm thinking, God, did I do all of that lot?
It's very impressive.
Yeah. Well, also for 15 years, I was playing the drums in the Inmates. I don't know if you know the Inmates. They had a hit in the early, was it about 81 or 82? I did their first album with them as a session, with Vic Mail, and then I joined them about 5 years later, and I was with them for 15 years and did about 10 albums with them. So
Oh, wow.
it's probably why I ended up getting divorced. I was always on tour.
That would make sense. I've heard of that happening before.
Yeah. Such is life.
Well, you guys also played on Top of the Pops, right? At one point?
Yeah, we did Top of the Pops when we did Automatic Lover.
Oh, such a good song. I love
Yeah. Would have been nice to do it a few more times, but we got there once at least, so that was good.
Yeah, definitely. I
We
would
had
say
to do we were playing a show that night in a club in Wolverhampton, which is about 140 miles from the studio. And so we did Top of the Pops, and we raced all the stuff in the back of the van, all jumped in on, sat on the gear and drove up there, and got there about half an hour before we were due on stage, and ran all the drums and stuff and set it all up. And then we found out afterwards that most bands, they stay in a hotel and put their feet up and everything. But we were never that kind of a band. We always, if we had a gig, let's do the gig. Let's do the gig.
Right.
Yeah, that was cool. And they said, "Oh, sorry, the Vibrators might be a bit late because they're doing Top of the Pops tonight." And we were. No
That's
sound check, just set up and go on and play. Yeah, it was good.
right. A lot of bands have covered your songs. Is there one that really impressed you?
I think, yeah, I don't know. There was a lot of covers and a lot of people have nicked bits and bobs from us, like the Boomtown Rats did Mary of the Fourth Form, which was, different lyrics to Automatic Lover, really.
Oh.
And there was a version of Baby Baby that came out, which was exactly the same. We just changed the lyrics in the chorus very slightly, and from an Australian company, and they got stopped from doing that. But Troops of Tomorrow has been done by a lot of bands. Baby Baby's done by a lot of bands. And I believe there's some tribute bands out there in Scandinavia and in America called Pure Mania and things doing all of that. So,
Oh, wow.
I'm always pleased. We always meet bands when you're on tour and they say, "Oh, you're a big influence, blah, 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 blah." I can't remember all the names now, but yeah, there's a lot of bands out there that have copied or used our material and covered it. Well, I mean, in the bands where I play with in Brighton, so we do a couple of things. We do Baby Baby and stuff because everybody knows that, because I used to play here with the band, and so everyone knows that. But they know that the Vibrators aren't coming back, so they come and see you when we do it.
Yeah,
Good fun.
definitely. Are you listening to any bands now that you're really into? Any punk bands?
I haven't been to see too many bands with all the COVID thing. It all kind of stopped, so I haven't been. Getting a bit old and a bit lazy, and I live about 80 miles out of London now, so going to see bands. But I still go and see all the friends like 999,
Mm-hmm.
UK Subs, all those kind of bands when they come close, or they're not too far away. Then I'll go and see them, and they're always good. I mean, the UK Subs and 999 have been going for years and years, and they're really good. So you check them out, man.
Yeah, no, they're great. It's a great
Yeah.
band. Definitely. I really like them as well.
Yeah. They're very good. Well, I know
But
Charlie quite well. I filled in for both of those bands on occasions, playing the drums for them. So that's pretty cool. Oh,
yeah.
and my claim to fame is I'm the only person that ever played in Eddie and Hot Rods called Eddie. So
Oh,
yeah.
really?
I filled in for their drummer once when he couldn't play. They were doing a benefit for, what's his name? Lee Brillo from Dr. Feelgood when he was ill, and they were doing a
Okay.
benefit for the thing. And it was Dr. Feelgood, the Inmates, Eddie and the Hot Rods, and then Bill Hurley had a band called the Enforcers. And then they booked one show, and then that sold out, so they booked another show in the same day. So they had a matinee show and an evening show. And then their drummer couldn't do the evening show, so they said, "Can you play for us tonight?" So I played for Eddie and the Hot Rods that night, and I was the only person called Eddie ever in the band.
Are they still around?
They are, yeah, they're still playing and they're still very good. They haven't got Barry Masters anymore, sadly. He passed away about 5 or 6 years ago, I think. Yeah, sadly, went to his funeral. Yeah, that was sad, because he filled in when Bill was ill, and he sang with the Inmates. So I did an album with Barry and the Inmates. And then when we toured France and things, people would come in and say, "Oh, can you speak to Eddie? Can I speak to Eddie?" And they'd point at me in the corner and say, "There he sat over there." And they go, "No, that's Eddie there. No, that's Barry." Yeah.
What was one of your favorite places you ever toured, played, or anything?
Well, I just like being on tour, but we always did very well in Eastern Europe, in Poland and Czech Republic, Slovakia, Croatia, places like that. We did really well, and Germany was always a good favourite for us, and Scandinavia. And we've been. I think I worked it out to sort of 48 different countries. I mean, we played in South America several times. And Brazil was a great place for us to play. We used to play in about 5 or 6 or 8 shows in Brazil. And then the last tour we did, we went to Lima and Argentina and Uruguay, and it was great. Yeah, it's really good.
Is the crowd very different now than it was in the beginning?
They're a little less nutty than they were in the beginning. I think kids are a bit madder in the 70s than they are now, but that's possibly because some of them are a bit older.
Right.
One memorable show was we played down in Brazil in what's the town? It wasn't Rio. I can't remember. But anyway, we played and they said, "Can you do an acoustic show in the afternoon in this little club? You know, it's only a small club. It only holds about 150 people." We said, "Yeah."
Mhm.
And they said, "But you just got to do it acoustic." And we got there and we started doing it. They got some acoustic guitars for us and that. We were trying to go through it, but the PA was terrible, so we couldn't really hear what we were singing. And then
Oh,
after about the first number, you just realised that everybody in the crowd was singing the song.
oh,
We
wow.
just had to do nothing, we were just playing along. And well, if they can't hear us, we can hear them. And they knew all the lyrics and all the words, and it was just a buzz. It was really, really a fun gig. It wasn't what we expected at all, but it was good fun. We just thinking that was mad, but
That must be pretty magical. Yeah, hearing the crowd
yeah.
sing your songs.
Well, you kind of expect it for one song, or "Baby Baby" or something where it's got simple lyrics, but it was every song.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. Oh, that was also where the Ramones were very big, was in Brazil, wasn't it? I think they played very big theaters there, big places.
Did you ever get a chance to play with the Ramones?
No, I didn't. I saw them lots of times. I saw them pretty much on the first time they came to London. I saw them in a little club called Dingwalls when they were second on the bill. There was the Stranglers, the Ramones, and the Flaming Groovies. And that's the first time I saw them. But I've seen them probably about 10 times. Every time they come to London, I always try to make an effort to go and see them. We always
Really?
had a thing that every time we did an American tour, whenever we got to New York, another one would die, and there'd be a little shrine outside CBGB's every time we turned up to play there. We kind of think maybe we shouldn't tour America. It's bad news for the Ramones when we come out here. But I
Yeah,
always thought it was very sad when we went out there. We toured there about 15 years before any of them died, and you never heard them played on the radio. And then when they started to die, they got loads of
yeah,
play on the radio, and you think,
of
well, if
course.
you played them on the radio, they would have sold more records, and they would have made more money, and they would have been a bit more comfortable, and maybe they would have
Yeah,
lived a bit longer. So, but
it's a
that's the way it
shame.
goes. Now, it was terrible to hear them being described as one of America's great rock and roll bands, which they are probably. With the Doors, they're probably the two best bands who've ever come out of America, and yet they never really got much play on the radio, which is hence their song. What was it? We Want the Airwaves.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
They knew about it as well as we did. And then when they're no more, that's when they get played. But maybe we always
That's
used to
what happens with
tell
artists
not.
too.
Sorry.
I was saying that's what happens with artists too. Once you
Yeah, yeah. We were always
go.
saying, we were always kidding Knox, hurry up and die because then we'll sell some records.
Right.
Yeah, he was mean. He never do. He's still alive and he's still going today. He never took that. Stupid boy. He didn't know how to make things successful, you see. He stayed alive. But yeah, it's good fun, isn't it?
Yeah. Did you ever play CBGBs?
Yeah, we played there every year for about 12, 15 years. We did 2 live CDs there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we did a live DVD, which was done by a friend of ours, Bob Ardrey. Sadly, he died about 3 weeks ago. And I believe they show that at the Las Vegas Punk Rock Museum. Well, they got a copy, so maybe they can show it for occasionally. But
Oh, okay.
we did a couple of shows there. They had a facility there to record things in an in-house studio. So all you had to do was plug it in and get it sorted. And the first
Oh,
time we just recorded the show, and the second time we videoed it as well. So
oh, wow. I'll have to check that out.
check it
Definitely.
out. Yeah, it's good. You get a little tour of CBGB's.
Yeah. So when you guys started, punk wasn't even a thing, right? It wasn't.
No, it definitely wasn't a thing. We just started to try and make, like I said before, to try and recreate live, loud, exciting music, rather than that sort of stuff that everyone else seemed to be playing. And the only band that was kind of probably an influence for me that you could go and see were the two bands that were like that were Dr. Feelgood and Eddie and the Hot Rods. And then we just wanted to do our own style, like I say. And then people said, "Oh, you're a punk band." All right, we're a punk band, whatever that means. And suddenly we were in it, for good
Right.
or the worse. But we were just doing our own thing, and if that fitted into that category, then that's what we did.
What do
But
you think?
yeah,
Oh, sorry.
yeah. In the beginning, when the bands all started, like you had bands like the Clash, the Jam, the Vibrators, the Damned, the Sex Pistols, and the
Mhm.
Stranglers, and they were all kind of under that punk umbrella. But none of those bands were remotely like each other. They all had
Right.
very different styles and different ways of playing and different approach to the music, but it was all punk. And then, as time went on, it became much more of a defined thing, with the Mohican
Mohawks.
haircut and everything in 2/4, and played at sort of breakneck pace. But in the early days, it wasn't really like that. It was just do your own thing, but make it so that the lyrics mean something, and they're not just going la la la. But
Yeah,
it's cool.
definitely. What do you think of punk now? Punk music
It's great. I think there's a lot of good little bands out there playing it, and they're keeping the spirit and the thing alive, And unfortunately, I think they're still going to have the same thing of getting radio play and what have you. But
Right.
so long as bands are going out there playing and having fun, and they'll keep going forever. I think it will. Just keep going.
Yeah,
Good luck to
definitely.
them.
I know a lot of people say punk is dead, but I mean, I feel like it's still going on.
Oh yeah, but it's all back in the little clubs and small bands playing in little clubs and stuff like that. And every now and again one of them breaks through, like Green Day. They kind of broke through and sold a lot of records, didn't they?
Yeah,
And they started
yeah,
it, and that,
sure.
yeah. So there's a chance there, but you've got to go out there and you've got to really keep working at it. There's no easy soft route where you're going to get a load of radio play and everything. You've got to go out, play live, hone your act, go around and play all the different clubs and things.
Right. That
Yep.
makes sense.
And
Definitely.
that's the best place to see bands anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, I
Rather
agree.
than looking at Taylor Swift through a pair of binoculars half a mile away.
Oh, I hate that. I don't go to the big arenas to see shows.
No,
There's
I have
no
done
point
that.
to me.
I've done that a couple of times and really just disliked it. I like the acts, but just the vibe and the thing was horrible.
Yeah, I agree. I like a more much intimate setting where you could, see the band, see it on a screen.
Yeah, you got a beer in your right hand, and if you run out, you can just go to the bar and get another one.
Exactly. So where can people find your merch and music these days? You guys have
Well, most of our music's were in America's on Cleopatra Records, so if you check them out,
okay.
and they were doing some t-shirts and things now. I'm not sure if they're still doing those. And they'll have stuff. So if you go to Cleopatra Records, we used to have a company doing all the t-shirts and things, but since the band's folded up, they can't do it anymore.
Oh.
So maybe there's a few t-shirts and things still out there you can find, but you can also go to our website and there's things on that you can get. thevibrators.com.
Vibrators.com. Okay. Yeah. I gotta get myself a t-shirt.
Yeah. Check it out. Look it up. Cool.
Definitely. Is there anything else you want to talk about?
Oh, you covered pretty much everything. I don't want to bore everyone to tears.
Oh, you're definitely
Probably
not
need someone to
boring.
translate everything I say anyway, because Americans can never understand your accent.
Oh. So we can expect more music from you in the future with the bands that you're playing with?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, they're just definitely recording things, and we've recorded like an EP with Vic and the Vapor Rubs, and there's recording stuff with the Groovy Arts Club band, and we've done a couple of EPs with Eames. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be more bits and bobs coming out in the future.
Very cool. One thing I forgot to ask, how did the Vibrators get your name?
Let me think. Yeah, we just had a meeting after our first or second rehearsal and said we've got to have a name, and we went through a whole bunch of names. We were going to be called Terry Lean and the Trousers, and Pat said, "Oh, I'll be Polystyrene," and John wanted to be Jack Off a lot, and no, we can't do that. It's too silly. And then John said, "Why don't we call it the Vibrators?" And they all laughed, and I thought, "Oh, I can see that being a problem to get played on the radio." And they said, "We'll never get played on the radio. Let's call it that. Everyone will remember it." So it's one of the most easily rememberable names. Although even now, sometimes you kind of get people say, "Oh, we can't play that on the radio," but that's what music is. It's vibrations, isn't it?
Right. That's
And we
very
make
true.
those vibrations, so we're the vibrators. Makes sense. I don't know what other I mean, it's one of those things, isn't it? People like the name. And
Oh,
girls, yeah, well, girls really like the Vibrators, don't they? So, we can't.
Yeah. Well, you guys are one of my favorite punk bands for sure.
Good stuff. Good.
All right. Well, thank you for coming on. Hang out for a minute once I end the recording.
Okay.
And, it's been a pleasure interviewing you. Thank you so much for coming on, Eddie.
My pleasure. Yeah. And if you need anything, just let me know.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. All right.
You've been watching On the Nod. I'm Brackett. This is Eddie from the Vibrators. Thank you for watching.
Bye.